I think we're up. All right. Oh, look at that. Incredibly awesome UV unwrapping I did on that building there. Let's go ahead and tell the world that we're streaming. Streaming crappy building checks. Well, here we are. We got some stuff to do. First thing I want to do for today is to just check and see whether or not I can make a material that's a little bit less shitty than this, which should be fairly straightforward because that is an astonishingly shitty material for our purposes. World space building. And then we'll go ahead and open that up. And all we're really going to do is we are going to use a brick node. Brick. I don't remember which one of these I need. That's a UV offset pattern. That's not what we need. There should be a way to just tell it to create a brick texture. I mean, I presume we could probably go and find one. It's not that critical. I don't see any real obvious brick. I mean, there was that other one. UV brick patterns. Well, this one looks like it might be true. Might be good. I don't know what this true or false means. I don't know what any of this means, but let's go ahead and drop it into base color and see what happens. We're also going to bring that metallic down to 0 and bring the roughness up to 1 since it's a frickin' brick. Now if we look at what we've got here, I don't really know what's going on in terms of like frac and non-frac and that sort of jazz. This is I guess is this a function? Yeah, okay. So there's a function going on here. All right, so what we're getting here is something that's a little bit different than what I actually want. This is not a very useful tool. We're going to want to do this in another way. We'll just create our own brick pattern for now. So the way we're going to do that is we're going to take the world position. There it is. And then we're going to break it. And that will allow us to get to the X, Y, and Z coordinates. And what we're going to do is we're going to assume that all buildings are vertical, which means that we're going to want the normal as well. No, there should just be a way to get the world normal, right? World align normal, texturing. But that's like got a whole bunch of inputs that don't make sense. Let's take a look at the input data. There's a whole directory for that, right? No? There's something I'm obviously missing here. There's something very, very basic that I've screwed up or don't really understand. Is it this? Vertex normal was? Is that the world vertex normal? Let's check. Let's ask Mr. Google. Google, is vertex normal was? Oh, everybody's typed it. It auto-filled it. World space vertex normal. Yeah, what a wonderful name you've got for it there. Great job. Anyway, what we're going to do is we're just basically going to use this to determine whether or not we want the X or the Y axis. We could, in fact, project the world position down onto a plane of our own making based on the world normal, but that's more work than I care to do at the moment. So we're just going to determine whether or not to use the x or the y-axis. The other thing is maybe we don't want to use the world normal. Maybe we want the vertex normal local. There doesn't appear to be a vertex normal local, just woos. I guess we'll use the woos. The reason I was thinking that we might want to use locally is because I'll be rotating these and this will screw up if I rotate. It's okay. We'll just go ahead. Well, another thing we can do is we can just fucking add them together. Let's just add them together. So if we add x and the y together, one of them will move and the other one won't, or they'll both move or whatever. But the point is that's the horizontal side of things. And all we really need to do is frac that so that we can break it into pieces. So in order to do that, there should be a frac. There's a frac. And as I recall, a frac goes from 0 to 1, so we may end up like multiplying this or something. We'll deal with that. Let's go ahead and put in a multiply. And we can set the multiply up with a constant of our choice. Let's set it up with 0.5. Ooh, that's like centimeters, isn't it? We'll set it up with 50. And then this should produce an awful pulsing. I actually don't know whether or not that's even going to be interpreted correctly, because it's very possible that they might not autocast that into a color in the way I'm hoping. Either way, we will go ahead and try it. Oh, I'm not sure how long I'm going to stream today, by the way, because I want to go play Psychonauts 2 some more. But I know I won't be able to stream next time, because that's September 1st, right? Yeah, I think so. And nobody's supposed to stream on that day, because Twitch is being a piece of shit. And it's important to... that's not right. It's important to put up a show, or a lack of a show. So... me and my 2 viewers will, this doesn't look like, it might just be that it's so dense that it's you know, fracturing in the wrong way here. Anyway, that's the day that there's going to be a bunch of people not doing anything, and I'm going to be one of those people not doing anything. So if I didn't stream today, you wouldn't have seen me for like a month. All right, so that's clearly too fast, so we'll just break it down even more. There we are. So what you can see here is a typical situation for a brick, right? And all we really need to do is set this up so that it's a solid color within a specific range, and then we'll just alternate as we go down in an interesting way. So we don't really need it to be good, but we would like it to suck a little bit less than it might otherwise. Is there a remap function? There should be some kind of remap value range. So here we can allow ourselves to... oh, this is one of those annoying ones that you have to manually put in nodes for every single possible remap option. Remap should be the same as every other friggin' node. It should just let me click on it and put in forced values. Oh well, we'll do it the long, stupid way instead. I see how I can't actually enter any values here. I have to do this. How stupid. It's fine. So basically, we are going to want to take values between 0 and 0.9 and crush them into a flat value, and then we'll take the rest into it, we'll figure out the rest as we go. So what we would actually do is we would take the input low of something like 0.9, and then the input high of 0, and then this would be 0 to 1. And what that'll do is it'll crush everything that's below 0.9 into a 1. See that? Or a 0, whichever, it doesn't matter, as long as it crushes them. And then what we want to do is have this value here also get fracked and multiplied. So we'll just go ahead and put in a multiply. Put in a frac. Now this is a little bit more interesting than you might think, which we'll talk about later. For now we're fine. And then we're also going to want to... do we want to actually do it? We don't actually want to frac this. We want to even odd this. Which we could do using a frac. But it would be a little unusual. Can we do a divider remain of a percent of a fmod? So we really don't want a fmod. We want to do a divide into an integer. No, not a divide into an integer. We just want it to be either 0 or 1. And for some reason I'm blanking on how to do that. I mean, sure, fmod should be able to do that, right? Oh, that's a... Sorry, I wanted a 2, but it needs to be here. Let me just... I'm blanking. I'm blanking on exactly what fmod does, so that's what we're going to look up. Oh, it does sound. Right. Unreal node. It's also sound. Look at all this sound. Unreal shader. Jesus Christ. Why is it refusing to give me details on the shader node named fmod? Why is it like sound everywhere? Sound, sound, sound. Sound. Okay. Here it is. Oh, it's a video. Fuck you. This is a fundamental node that everybody's fucking used. Let's just look for it as a shader. Okay. Fmod returns the remainder of x divided by y with the same sign as x. So, if I divide it by 2, I'll get a value that's either, that's between 0 and 2. Yes, that's correct. And then I can just subtract 1. And that will give me a value between -1 and 1. Yes. And then all I need to really do is multiply this value. I could even arguably not multiply it if I didn't want to. Let's just do another remap. Why not? Why is this... There. Just do another remap. And in this case, we'll just have the values much the same as they were before on the other site here. The input low is going to be... I don't know why I'm doing it like this. This doesn't seem right. Ah, that's what I want. I want the saturate node, right? The saturate node clamps between 0 and 1. I just want to alternate, and I can't figure out... There's a way to do this, right? It should just be like fmod to cast to integer. I just want to cast it to an integer. Can I do that? Oh, of course I can. I can just do like a floor. Yeah. Duh. Okay. So if I floor it, it will be either 0 or 1, which is what I want. I don't have to subtract jack shit. All right, now we're getting somewhere. Yeah, no, that's it. Mifaz came by to tell me floor. He is correct. Floor is what I wanted. I just, for some reason, was blanking. It's been too long since I've worked with shader math, and I ended up getting all confused. Boom. Now that doesn't seem like it's doing quite what I want. And I think the reason for that is, well, it's not too bad, actually. I mean, that's not exactly what I want. There's clearly something wrong, and I think I know what it is. But to be honest, that's fine for now. All we really want to do is now assign a color rather than white. White is a little bit too aggressive. And later on, we'll come back and just polish this up so that it doesn't suck quite as bad. I got the right approach, but what I need to do is this part isn't quite right for this because this only goes to 1, or yeah, it only goes to 1 at specific moments. Yeah, okay. So what we really need to do is lerp between two colors. So let's go ahead and put in a color. I guess it's a 4. There it is. And then another 4, and those are going to be the brick colors, and we're just going to lerp between them. I don't need to lerp 3 colors. I need to lerp 2 colors. And now this will promote to parameter, which we will call, whoa! So I don't get the option to restart it. Fucking hell, what a bad setup that is. So we are running in 5, and 5 is a little bit untested here and there, and that's why it sometimes barfs. I have zero interest in trying to send shit to their debug station while I am streaming. So we are just going to, ooh, that was weird. Okay, we're back, sort of. Unfortunately, we lost a lot of progress. I don't know exactly how much. And of course, there are always new plugins because for some reason Unreal is glitched on this machine. Alright, so here we are. We're going to go back in. Yep. Look, it didn't even give us the lerping. That's fine. We'll go ahead and do it again. 4. Let's see, does it crash when I convert to a parameter? No, it's fine. Okay, I don't know exactly what happened there. Color 1. And then we'll do it again. Convert to parameter. Color 2. And obviously these colors should be defaulting to something a little bit less bad. So we'll just say like one of them can be this slightly reddish, orangish color. Hit OK. That didn't work. OK. Oh, it did. It's just not OK. And then this one we will make it a darker color. And then we'll lerp. Well, that's not right. I guess we'll... It looks like it's not going where I thought it would go. There's some negative values in there. Yeah, that's a little better. So apparently there are values that are above 1. That's what's going on. So that's not great, because that means I misunderstood the math I was doing. So let's take a quick little peek here. We're fracking here. Fracking should just give us the remainder, right? Did I misunderstand what frac does? Probably. Maybe that's the problem. Maybe I misunderstood what frac does. I thought it just gave us the fraction. I thought it was exactly like fmod, but with a forced 1. Oh, well, here's the problem. We're remapping. Okay, that's the issue. The remapping is just a little bit aggressive, and that's fine as long as we understand that it is. It's aggressive on purpose. I made it that way and then forgot to saturate because I haven't done this in a while. There we go. So that's what I expect from you, and it should work. Interesting. It's not quite right, as you can see, and that's fine for now. We'll figure it out later. This is much closer to what I had thought it would be, but as you can see, what we actually want to do is offset the x-axis by a certain amount rather than change colors. The changing colors is a different concept. So let's just go ahead and see how easy that is. So here's the x value, and what we really want to do is this part. Rather than putting in that subtract, we want this to get added to our x value, sort of. Let's just go ahead and try adding it to our x value. Can we add another pin to the add here? No? Okay, we can't add another pin to the add, so we will go ahead and add another add so that we can add to our add. There we are. But here's the thing. I don't know whether or not that is going to do it, because this is adding in a weird spot, right? So if we were to pull these back, whoop, and this multiply happens. This multiply is really what creates the situation, right? So we should really be adding to the multiply, but the problem is adding an integer value to the multiply is pointless, since frac literally exists specifically to remove integer values. So we are going to have to divide by 2 here. Yeah, that's a little bit more like what I had in mind. And then this can go away. Boom. That's a little bit closer. Now the only issue is that we don't have a dark streak on the y-axis. There's no y mortar. So in order to do that, what we actually want to do is switch out this lerp value. We want to take a maximum between 2 different values. So we'll start with this, and that's going to make it entirely black or dark. And then what we're going to want to do is we are going to, because it's a 1 right now, then what we're going to do is we're going to take this fmod here, fmod of 2. We're not. We're going to actually take this frac. And then we are also going to, we could probably put this into the remap instead. We could put it here. That way we wouldn't have to remap twice. Just move this over here. And we will take this max, pull it out. I can't pull it out. Okay, we'll put it here then. Max. Frac. Whoop. And then this max isn't needed. There we are. Save it. Apply it. And there we have some basic brick. That really shouldn't be necessary. There really should just be a repeating texture generator that's already set up. And I'm sure there is. I just don't happen to know it, right? How annoying, right? So I have some issues with this. For example, that. And I think what's going on there is it's not built to go across a surface like this. So if we're going to use this material, we need to have a specific case for when there is no Z. Because the lack of a Z change is clearly causing some grief here. This isn't Z fighting with anything. It's just the fact that it's on an exact Z plane. See? So the fact that it's on exactly a 0 is what's causing this to give us some grief here. And there's a couple of ways around that. One of the ways around that is to simply understand that it is on a Z plane, which we can do using the vertex normals. Here we are, and break it. And then we will take the abs of Z. That'll give us a value that is extremely close to 1 if we are looking upwards. And so what we can do is we can just bring this on down over here, and then this can once again be a max. And that will darken any surface that isn't horizontal. See? It's not really that dark. It looks like it brightened any surface. Whatever, it's fine. So that is our generic brick for the moment. We'll come back to it much later. Who cares? I just wanted to have something that didn't make my eyes bleed quite as much. And this is definitely better than what we had before, which was strange blotchy brick, like a stone with mortar. And that was just really distracting to me. So we'll just go ahead and use this for the moment. So what we were doing before is we were testing out the kind of jumping that we can get if we create buildings that are partial jumping puzzles on their own. And we explored 2 basic approaches to this. For small buildings, we approached the idea that you can jump up the whole building on its own. It's a coherent puzzle. However, a requirement for that, it's not even really a puzzle, it's just a progression. However, a requirement for that is that you have to move around at least 3 of the faces to get to the top. So the idea there being that when you combine it with other buildings, you're likely to end up with faces that get, butted against each other. That will remove that face from play, and therefore you won't be able to simply I can get up there, yeah. Therefore you won't be able to simply jump up the side, because one of the sides will be missing. And that'll create some nice combinatoric complexity when we are specifically butting up different buildings against each other, and removing their sides from navigability. Now, when it comes to the bigger buildings, the idea was to create jumping puzzles where the bigger building just wasn't navigable on its own, but is like half puzzles. So you can get halfway up the building and then there's a stop. And then you can get halfway up a building on other faces, but you can't reach the other face from the face you're standing on. So it's two broken navigation systems. And that's exactly what we've got with these A's. If we go over here, this is Blender, right? And you can clearly see that this is a puzzle where you can go up the side here, but then when you go through, you can't keep going up. There's stuff in the way, see? So the idea is that you'll have to go to a neighboring building, whether it's the clone or something else. Either way, let's go ahead and try that puzzle out with a little bit more austerity, just because that will be an easy way for us to hammer out that specific kind of philosophy. Now in this case, our floors are 2.5 meters tall, and I think that a 4-story building is ideal for testing, so we'll just extend 2.5 and then extend 2.5 and then extend 2.5, and that's our 4 stories. If we scale up on all axes except Z, we can get ourselves some kind of square building, like so. Now our jumping capability is exactly 2 stories at the moment. That's kind of what we're planning everything around. So with that in mind, when we create navigable puzzles here, we create them with the assumption that the player will be able to jump 2 stories. Since that's the case, this will short circuit our entire puzzle, because that is a walkway that's exactly 2 stories up. So we can get on it and we can get above it onto the top of the building, since we can jump exactly 2 stories. So the ways around that are, first off, we can just have nothing on the 2nd floor. And second off, we can in fact introduce partial lip to this top floor, which just makes it harder for us to jump, so we can't reach it from the 2nd story. That's, I guess, what we'll start with. So for example, if we were to just extrude these up like so to create, some kind of walkway sort of thing, we can also there we are, something like that. That's a little tall. It ended up too big. Let's try that again. There, that's the right size. And that's just like a roof hut, So with this in mind, if we do have a walkway here, we shouldn't have any problems with it. So if we were to create this and then extrude it up, and I don't actually know which direction that goes, so let's switch over to, is this using a material? No, it's not. We'll switch over to a material. Material should be back-faced culled. Yeah, so you can see how it's inside out. Flip. And we're going to go ahead and name this. We'll name this test 4 stories, and we'll just name it 4 stories test. And then we'll export it. Go over into Unreal, grind, grind, grind. Let's delete all the stuff we've currently got in this scene. We don't need it. Not that. We do want the floor. And then we will stick in our 4-story building that we just created, which is going to bark some errors. Yes, import it. That was weird. Every time I use Unreal, it always seems to have slightly different rules about what it does automatically and what it doesn't do. So this should be on the ground, and it should have a problem right now with a collider because we didn't set the collider up. That's fine. We'll just go inside and set up the collider. So there we are. All right, so here, if we do this, you can see how we can get on. We don't want that. You see that? That's too high of a jump, which means that our jump is just miscalibrated. We need to bring our jump height down a couple feet there. We do have a double jump, and we also have a hold jump to jump higher, and that's making our calculations a little bit more complicated. But just in essence, all we really should have to do is drop this down to maybe 690. Wow, we can really jump a lot higher than I remember being able to jump. Did this reset? Is that what happened here? This might have reset when we crashed. Because I don't remember being able to jump nearly that high. Okay, so this is more like it. And you can see how we can't even make this two-story jump with the jump set as it is right now, which means it's just a little too low. We'll set it at 500, maybe 510. Just barely short, which is, yeah, we'll just go ahead and set that to 530. We just want to barely be able to make this jump. And now remember that this is actually a little bit more than 2 stories because that is actually extruded up on the z-axis. So it's set at 2 stories up. It's set at 5 meters. That's like it. That's what we want. See how we can't make this jump? It just falls short. That's on purpose. We want that kind of 1 meter, 1.5 meter high wall to actually stop us. But of course, if we were cunning little dudes, we could get around like this. And that's not necessarily bad, but it's also not what we want. So we're going to have to fix that up. First, let's drop on some bricks. There we are. So we'll go back over into Blender, and we are going to add in more lip. Don't give me none of that lip. 1. Okay, there's something wrong there. Am I hitting the wrong button? I don't know what was going on there. Let's cut it. Then extrude this up. And then we can cut by distance and then grab and then delete the face in there. And that will allow us to have a little bit of a U. Similarly, we can delete this set of verts. That will allow us to have a nice, crisp corner like that. And that means that we won't be able to make this jump anymore. See that? So in essence, what that means is that if we can get up here, we won't be able to get up there from the 2 meter height. But this is still a very forgiving puzzle, because whatever we put, we have no option but to go up. And the instant we go up, we're going to be able to make that jump. I was just doing this for testing purposes. What we really want to do is go from 1st floor to 3rd floor. And I think we can do that by having a 2nd floor that runs along in an awkward pattern. So what we're going to do is create ourselves a 3rd floor ledge that crosses this gap here. And I think it's going to just be So I'm trying to think about what I want it to be, and I think that it would be good if it was an air vent, a duct. So with that in mind, what we'll do is we will scale it down on the y-axis, and then we will extrude here and here. And we'll scale those up since they're not quite the right size. Now we'll scale everything else down. And then we'll bevel the edges so it looks a little bit more air ducty. Now, we can do a lot with air ducts in terms of how they look. But one of the things we have to be watching out for is that they are taller than an average ledge might be, so we have to be careful about exactly how we set it up. What I really want to do with this is bevel here and then bring this whole shenanigan setup down. With that in mind, we can take this and turn it into something that actually doesn't suck. Unfortunately, we just bound it to the wall, so we're going to have to cut, 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 cut. There we are. So if we were to move it like this, and then we could reattach the areas that we just cut a whole bunch off of. There we are. And then what we'll do is we will make this into just a little bit of a wraparound feature, just a tiny bit. Not quite that tiny. There we are. And once again, we're going to want to bevel. Phew, that's not the right bevel. And over here, we'll bevel this as well, but I gotta select it first. And once again, we're just kind of playing around. We're not being super careful about this stuff. Oh no! Well, this is annoying. So what I'm actually doing here is I'm setting up a second floor veranda, which was probably obvious, but maybe not. So if I were to grab these verts, I can deselect some of these on the inside because those aren't what I want. Okay, so clearly we're going to have to do some more cutting. I should have been a little bit more careful with this. So let's just delete the whole damn thing and create the veranda from scratch. So if we were to, oh, that's not the right way, chop and chop, this veranda is like a baseline for what we actually need out of our veranda. But the idea here is that we could actually drop this all the way to the ground, like so, and make it into a two-story veranda that you can just barely jump on top of from the ground. However, the problem there is that we don't actually want the player to be able to jump on it from the ground, as mentioned. So what we're going to want to do is actually make it so that the player can't hit it from the ground. And the easiest way to do that is to just raise this portion up, like so. And then we've got this air conditioning thing coming straight out of it, right? And of course we want the player to be able to get up on top of it, but we want that to be a trek that they have to go around the building to do. So what we're going to do is we are going to create a one-story element here. Maybe we'll extend this, yeah, to there. And then we can just repeat that process with a one-story element, right? So we'll just extrude that out. Oh, that's not right. Duplicate and then extrude out. And then we can simply repeat the process. And we're just trying out some shapes. We're just trying to figure out what shapes will work well in a jumping puzzle. So for example, here we've got a one-story veranda sort of element, and I think that if we were to assume that that is like an entryway, it could work. It could work pretty well. Let's find out, shall we? So if we were to take these faces here, and you know, we just want to actually bevel Everybody loves beveling, right? Bevel! Not that much bevel. A wee little bit of bevel, like there. If we take these and move them back, we should be able to get it to feel a little bit more natural. Let's find out. We could even tent this. We don't want to tent it too much, though. Or if we do tent it, we want to bring it down a little bit more. Let's bring it down just a touch. In fact, let's untent it and tent this down. And similarly here, we can actually bring this down in line with what we need it to be. Maybe even lower. Not that low. 2 stories is too low because the whole point is that the player can jump that high. So we're going to... Yeah. So let's try it. All right, so the hope here is that these are simply too high to reach. Yeah, it looks too high. Yeah, good. And then here we have a lower entryway, which may be a little bit too low because it's like something that feels a little bit claustrophobic. So maybe we could raise this up a little bit. It doesn't have to be at 1, it just has to be below 2, right? Anyway, we can make this jump. And then from here, we can't quite get over that lip, which is the point. So we need to take this on up, and then we can. And that's half because the lip goes away and half because this comes up, right? That's fine. That's good. So the point of that is that you can always get up this building if it's standing on its own. But it's not always going to be standing on its own. That's kind of the point, right? The only question I have about this, the only problem I've got with this is that we're actually working corners here rather than faces. And I think that's going to be something we just have to deal with because it's always about wrapping around the corners, right? But the problem is that if we were to copy and paste this building and move it, for example, you can see how when we move it, we end up with a corner that is still pokey. It's still visible because we didn't delete the corner and it's overlapping in a way that is poking out in an awkward fashion. So when we talk about corners, we have to make our building mergers, our setups, a little bit more difficult, and that's not really what we want. We're going to have to think about that. Either way, you can see how this was kind of a fun thing because we still have to go around this side because on this side we've actually nerfed this here. This here is inside this building. If we think about this one over here, we can't go here. This is where it should be, and it's not there. So that is fun. We also have the option of adding in more stuff on this side and with this corner. Right now it's very bare on purpose. One of the things we could do, for example, is rotate. So this here is poking out of where we were. One of the ways to get around that is to move this so that it's like that, for example. And there's nothing wrong with that at all, except that the roof kind of screws up. See that? So it's one of those things where we would have to be careful of creating situations where the roof won't look bad when you do that. Maybe something like this, right? But the roof isn't on an exact meter mark. It's just, it didn't quite hit that meter mark. So there's going to be some Z-fighting and some overlap. So even without rotation, we can get something like this. And again, we're just playing with shapes. We're just having fun with shapes here. So we can't jump. There should be a jump point here, but it's inside the other building. So we can't jump on it. This is hidden inside the other building. So we can jump on this one, then we can jump over here, and that's not going to be enough to get up. Oh, it is, because our jump is just a little bit too good. Okay, well, it shouldn't be enough to get all the way up there. So we'll fix that later. And then this, normally we would be able to go up over there, but we can't. Again, our jump is just a tiny bit too good. So we would have to come all the way around here and do it. Let's go ahead and nerf our jump just a little bit more. That's the player start. That's the character. Is there like a jump? 550. Let's bring it down to 540. Basically, I want to be able to clear exactly like 2.1 level gaps, which means I want to be able to jump like 7.1 meters with a double jump. So that's what we're aiming for. 7.2 meters maybe, but not 8. See? Not 8. Yeah, that's good. That's good. I like it. Now, the idea, of course, is that we're testing the limits here. In ordinary play, you wouldn't set up the buildings specifically to stymie a player like we're doing now. In ordinary play, you put them together specifically to make the player feel cool. But I need to understand the limits before we can try that. So in that case, we can rotate this building, right? And if we rotate the building, we get, or even like switch it on the x-axis and invert it or something, we get a whole bunch of different sorts of challenges and stuff. In this case, for example, we could bring it this way. So with this setup, you can see that we've got a little bit of a different situation. Now there is a little bit of roof shenaniganery here, but that should be okay. Let's find out. Oh, I'm inside of it. That's not okay. Let's grab both buildings and move them away from the player. So obviously one way in would be to take the typical approach over here. Jump on top of this, which is, again, a little bit low. We'll fix that. Then jump over here. But we can't make this jump, so we have to come around. Normally, here, it would wrap around the building, and we would immediately be able to go up. But since we've rotated and extended, we have to go around and go up here, which is not a long walk. It's just right. And then we're upstairs. Now, the other question is, there is a fraction of a step over here. See this? See? And the question is, can we make this jump? And we can, because it's exactly 2 stories. We set it up like that. This is the same height as the elements. Oh, we'll have to go all the way around the building to show you. See that? So it's just high enough that we can reach it, and that's exactly what we want out of that area. That's the sort of emergent jumpability that we're looking for. Now, another part of this story is, of course, buildings that aren't actually overlapping, but still form compelling puzzles. So in that case, we would move this building, not both, just one of them. We would just move this building, like, say, here, right? And so if we have a building set up like that, we have this really nasty little alleyway, which is exactly what we want. And the question is whether or not this alleyway is a fun way to navigate these buildings. And the answer is, yeah, that's actually pretty good. I like it. I like it a lot. Yeah, it's good. It's good. I like it. So the idea here is that if we do create these alleyways, the alleyways allow you to quickly scale up these buildings by going back and forth between them. And that'll be true as long as we're careful to face navigable elements in this direction. Because, of course, we could have also just pasted in the giant flat wall. But the giant flat wall is specifically to support secondary buildings, this giant flat surface. I added in a giant flat surface on purpose because I wanted to test how this works with secondary additions. So for the sake of that, we're going to attach some giant flat buildings to giant flat building sides here. But the key to this is that we're going to be changing the height. It looks like I created a building that is not an exact meter size. That's fine. It's fine. So if we were to drop down 2.5, okay, so this grid is 10. Let's bring it up from 10 to 50 here. 1, 2, that's 1, 2, and then there we are. That is 1 floor down from the other building. We've sunk it down a floor. We are also going to want to shrink it, but not on the z-axis. All right, so this is a smaller building. And now you can see this is where we would normally mount it, right here. But we don't actually have to do that because just being down a floor brings this into our reach. And then we can come around and go up. And you can see we're on this building, and then we can get across to this building. But we didn't actually block the navigability on this building, so we could have also come around here. More options, less difficulty. And that's obviously going to happen when your whole point is that you're not screwing up the navigable elements. You're actually using the portion of the building that doesn't have any navigable elements and hiding that portion of the building. Obviously, that just means you're not going to lose any navigation because you're not hiding the navigation elements. It's when you hide the navigation elements that you start to create more challenging puzzles. And because of that, we can arrange these buildings knowing what we're trying to do. For example, if I were to take this building here and bring it over here and point these two largely unnavigable walls out to the side and bring it up an extra floor, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, there we are. If I do this, we're going to have an extremely hard time navigating it. It's not going to be too bad in this particular case because we're showing this little piece here. If I were to rotate it like this, you can see how this would be almost completely unnavigable. It might actually be completely unnavigable. And that's because we are taking what should be a navigation face and we are showing just flat wall. Now, it might be possible because we can navigate on the raised building. Yeah. So if we go over to the other building, the one that didn't have its navigations hidden, we can go up. But if we try and go up on the one where we've hidden the navigation, it's basically going to be impossible because we can't jump that high. There's lots to think about in terms of best practices to make for fun jumping puzzles. But one of the things we definitely have to think about is where the ground floor is. And that might be something that we want to add in. So if I want to be able to raise and lower buildings, then obviously the ground floor is going to be something we're going to have to be careful with because this is clearly wrong, right? This is not how a building should look. And if this door here, if this is the entrance, obviously it's not an entrance that makes sense. Now, one way around that is to create stairs leading up to every entrance that are 1 story tall, but that would mean that every building has the potential to have 2.5 meters of stairs leading up to its entrances, which is a lot of stairs. That's like not something you'd normally see in a city. So having an entire floor of stairs would be pretty aggressive. Another option, of course, would be to have the entrance elements be separate, and then you could put on the entrance hatch wherever you wanted, but that would screw up the jumping puzzles. I'll have to think about it. Another solution, obviously, would just to have pre-built buildings of different heights rather than everything being the same height, and that's obviously what we're going to do, at least partially. So this is a 4-story building. If we wanted to, we could create any stories we want. We don't have to stick to 4. So let's go ahead and create a 5-story building. That's not how you spell it. All right, so once again, that's 2.5, and then 2.5, and then 2.5, and then 2.5, 2.5. That's 5 stories. This time, let's go ahead and keep it to a meter grid just to make things simple for ourselves. It doesn't have to be exactly even. That's fine. So with a 5 meter setup, we've got a little bit of a different situation going. Just because we can now not have one jump that leads all the way to the roof. Over here on the 4, we had to put a lip in to sort of simulate a 5th story. We don't have to do that. We actually have a 5th story. So we won't be able to get to the roof until we reach here, right? This story here is where the roof happens. So in order to make that interesting, what we're going to do is we are going to create it first. And I guess we'll make it into like a veranda. So If this is our... Let's make sure that we're seeing this right. There we are. So if this is our veranda, it's a little bit wide. We'll go ahead and shrink it down on the y-axis here. And we could probably put in 2 verandas. And the reason I want to put in 2 verandas here is because I think it would be fun to be able to jump across the verandas as you're moving through the map. Similarly, we don't actually want these verandas to be quite as straightforward as they currently look. What we really want to have happen here is we want a little bit of a fence. So we're going to go ahead and extrude up a little bit of a fence. I'm not actually sure if we're going to be too big for these verandas. This might be a situation where we're trying to fit into a slot, and the slot might just be too small for the huge default character that we start with. So we'll just move these out another ½ meter. And that should be big enough. So that'll allow us to get all the way to the top. But here's the fun thing. We don't have to do it like this. There we are. We don't have to keep to these. So I'm having a hard time seeing, and I think that's because the lighting is turned off. Oh, it's a point light. All right, so the other thing we can do is we can bring you up to the top floor by chopping a big chunk of the top floor off. So we're going to do that right here. This is going to be shorter. And we can do that by extruding this down and then filling in these gaps. There we go. Now this is probably not the right spot for it. It's a little bit too big. So what we'll do is we'll simply shrink it down. Easy as pie, like that. And once again, we have a lot of options as to exactly how we want to do this, and we can add another piece of fencing, which will allow us to lock ourselves down just a little bit more, which is going to be valuable because it will allow us to, you know what, let's not do it like that. Let's do it like this. Because it means that we won't be able to jump from here to here. So that means that we, by necessity, have to have a mounting point here. This way, this is perfect, because we won't be able to jump onto that fence. We won't be able to hit this edge. We just can't jump quite high enough. So instead, we have to make our way around this corner to something that's a little bit more, you know, jumpable. So to do that, what we're actually going to want here is to move this like so. Maybe all the way over here. And then we can create a ledge right here. And this ledge right here is actually completely unnecessary, but it will look good. So we'll just bring it out like this. Yeah, like that. That'll do. But this isn't quite the right size, so we're going to want to bring this out like so. There we go. And then we can jump up here from 2 stories. So if we were to bring this down a touch, just a touch, we can turn this into an overhang. Oh, we need to bevel that. It's going all the way around the building, though. I don't want to bevel it if it's going all the way around the building. So what we're actually going to do here is punch this out and then punch it back in. And that'll make it a different object, which we can cut like so. And then we can bevel that. And so we can then take this object, might as well take the whole thing, and we can move it over and bring it down 5 meters. Maybe not quite 5 meters. Maybe it's a little bit short. Let's bring it up half a meter. There we are. And that's something that we can actually jump to. So we'll go ahead and delete those faces and then close it. Now we do have an open-faced model at this point, which is not what we want. I can't see. The sun is directly in my face and everything is the exact same shade of gray. There we are. And then we should be able to do it one more time, right? Yeah, there we are. There. We're going to want to do the same thing here. Just foop, 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 foop. And then we need to close off the wounded building itself. So if we were to move this away, you can see how we've got holes in the building. And move it back. That'll just keep it from having any holes in the mesh, which would be an awkward setup. So you can see that now we can jump here, and then over here, and then up here, and then right to the top. We can also get from the ground to here, just barely. So to make that clearer, what we'll do is we will just drop this down and make it run the whole length of the building. And maybe we'll add in just a little teeny tiny bit of decoration. So if we were to duplicate this and then extrude them out and then shrink it down, oh, not that far. Oh, I think we can do a little bit more than that. There we are. So that's a nice little setup. I think that feels a little bit unique, right? And then, of course, you can go around the corner, jump onto this, jump up there, or you can jump here and then not quite there. That's going to be a little bit tall. Might be possible. So what we'll do is we'll actually turn this into something you can jump, just because that would be more fun. Did we extrude on the... Is that just a random... So if we were to bring this down, like... Oh, that's not the right one. We could bring it down like that. I think it would make more sense to use a ventilation duct. So if we have a ventilation duct here, we can just extrude out and then move out and then shrink it and then bring it over and then bring it down, and then we can actually run it all the way into the ground and then extrude it up and then extrude it in. And we'll bevel here just to make it look a little bit more authentic. And then bring it down another notch. There we are. Too tall to get to from the ground, but you can jump to it from here and then jump up. See that? That should work. And then, of course, we got this big blank wall with nothing on it. I think that for the big blank wall with nothing on it, what we're actually going to do is introduce an overhang. So we'll grab these two, and then we will shrink it. Oh, that didn't shrink in the right direction at all. There we are. And just to keep this going, we will use the same vertical beam setup that we had for the rest, which isn't exactly like finished or coherent. It's just something that will allow us to sort of get the feel for how this sort of thing will feel. And the hopeful answer is it should feel pretty good. We will find out very soon here. Let's go ahead and just add one more teeny tiny little detail here. And that is, I think we need a staircase leading up. And so to create that staircase, what we're going to want to do is that. Very basic, very straightforward. But that should work. Now all we need is to set it up to export and export it. Fun, fun, fun. Now go out here, should be imported just fine. We currently have 2 of these 4-meter buildings. Let's delete the one that sunk into the ground. Pull that 5-meter building in. Oh, thank you. There it is. And obviously it would be nice if we gave it a material that sucked a little bit less. There. So we're going to pull it away from this side just to test it out on its own for a little bit. Oh, this is the one that was in the wrong spot. Well, that should be okay. We should be able to bring it down. Is there some reason I can't... Oh, I typed jump here. Obviously it's not going to be a jump. It wasn't actually a full story up even. It was only 4/5 of a full story up. All right, so here we have this building, and you can see that that is a terrible stretch job, but that's fine. It's just a material. Now we should be able to jump right up here. Oh. Nope, it looks like our jumping is just a little bit shy. That's interesting. I thought for sure I'd set that up. Did I mistake it for a different side? Maybe I mistook it. So here we've got this jump. Maybe it was supposed to be... Well, we'll find out. Oh, no, the problem is I forgot to set up the colliders. Now we should be able to make this jump. Yeah, see that? But we can't make that jump. No way. And we can't get up there either. So we can make this jump. And then we can come around this corner and make this jump, which would allow us to get up here, which obviously leads straight up to the top if we want. We can also proceed around. We can make this jump from the ground as well, and then jump here. And there. Oh, see? Perfectly fine. Now the joy to this is that these are things that will remain useful even if you're not using them actively for navigation to the top of the building. And that's kind of the point. Now in terms of teaming it up with the building on the side, they are in exactly the wrong place to be interesting. That's not too bad though. We can just rearrange them so they are in the right place to be interesting. I think that this... I think the problem is this building. I think this building needs to be rotated. Oh, that is a strange one. Let's try it on for size and see what happens. So obviously you can navigate from a 5-story building to a 4-story building by simply jumping down on the roof. That's nothing big. This jump is harder to make than I thought. That's fine though. That's no big deal. The question is whether or not this is interesting. Yeah, it sort of is. There's a lot to think about here, but what I really like is the theory that we can trap some of this stuff underneath this overhang and make it inaccessible. Like this, right? Now the problem is that we've got a lot of buildings that can be... We've got a lot of navigation elements that are possible. This is a little bit too simple. But it should work as long as we block it. So if we were to move this to here and block this jump. That jump right there is the issue. Now it's not so simple, in theory. I think we're trapped inside of it, though. We'll know for sure in a second here. Nope, we're fine. So you can see that this is like a wall of non-navigable jumps. We can't quite make any of these jumps. This is just a flat, unbreakable wall of, screw you, which is fun because it's clearly not just flat walls. These are things that can be navigated, but not from here. You'll have to find some way to get around. And of course, we know how to get around. We can just literally go around. So if we jump up here, whoop, and don't suck, and then we can jump up here, and then, we could go across the whole damn place. We could even just get straight up to the roof and not worry about it. We'll have to think about that some more. Now what I'm interested in is this overhang. I can't even see it. Is it over here? Yeah, here it is. We're going to have to be careful with the overhangs. I think we can find some places that might make it possible, like you can cut through. And I think we can do that by rotating. What we need is a surface that's the right height. And this building just doesn't have any, sort of. If we were to drop it down 2.5 meters, now it has one that's the right height. This whole segment is the right height. We'll want to rotate it one more notch. Oh, that shouldn't be doable. Oh, we dropped it down. That's right. Of course it's doable. So, yeah, we can get away with some stuff like this. I'm just trying to figure out how it feels. Obviously, it's super dark, but that's just because we're goofing off. I don't know. We're just kind of experimenting at this phase, and to be honest, it feels pretty good. Obviously, you can't tell because you're not controlling it. But just the way that you can easily navigate the buildings is nice. There are some problems, though. For example, we have a very low max speed at the moment. Our dash doesn't really work right. We're going to have to try and figure that out. And the double jump isn't quite as responsive as I'd like it to be. And obviously, all of these buildings are placeholder garbage. But fundamentally, the idea that I'm chasing, which is the idea that we can have a maze of jumpable elements that are, just the right height to be a challenge and also fun. It works. If we set our jump height to just a touch over 2 stories, then we have a lot of freedom as to where we can jump while still having a lot of constraints. And that's exactly what we want. And that's working pretty well. I'm not unhappy with this. The only issue I have with it is it's really customized. It's really optimized for buildings that are 5+ stories tall. Maybe even like 12 or 15 stories tall. Not necessarily all at once. It's quite possible for us to just stack them. But it is something where we have to be a little bit careful about. This just doesn't play very well in moderate-sized cities, and that's probably an issue. One of the other options we've got, of course, is to radically reduce the amount of jumping you can do. If you can only jump 1 story, then obviously you're going to have a different sort of experience. Yeah, we'll have to. It's possible to set it up as a more normal parkour game, but then the limitations start to take over and it starts to feel like a chore. I want it to feel like a delight. So what I'm trying to do here is I'm trying to make it so that you can't easily navigate that challenge. There's a little bit of a lip due to the fact that we're not using exact meters. Let's go ahead and try it out and see what happens. We're almost done. I want to go back and play some more Psychonauts 2 with the rest of my time away from work. So we're not going to go too long today. But, fun testing things out so we can get to the top of this building. From here, we can't easily get up there. But the problem is, of course, that there is, in fact, a lip, and we can technically stand on it. But that's just due to us mismeasuring the meters. Also, we can get up here, and from there we can get up here. Now we scaled this building down, which is going to be really obvious in terms of it having, if it has like an actual set of materials, because the windows and shit would all be too small. But this is fine. It feels okay. I don't dislike it at all. I'll see you folks around. Have fun. Bye.